how to loop through an enum in C#. In this video, we're going to cover that. But first, I'm going to go over the definition quickly, and then we're going to get to the code examples right away. So what is an enum in C#? An enum, or enumeration, is a value type which consists of a set of named constants. And this is a very good way to group related constants and make your code more readable and maintainable. So let's go right to the code examples and see how we can use enums in our code and how to loop through them. Now let's start with a very basic and common example. We're going to create our enum first, and then we're going to loop through it using two different ways. So let's do that right away. I'm going to call my enum days of week, and we're going to make this Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and what is left is Saturday. Now, if I want to print all the days of the week, how can I do that? There are two ways you can do that. So the first way, which is compatible with the older versions of C# prior to net 5, we can just do for the enum get name, and we need to use type of, and we go days of week, and we can do console write line day. And the second way, which you can use with net 5, I believe, or a later version. We are right now at net 8. If you're using the latest version, you should be able to use the second way that I'm going to show you now quickly. Again, we're going for each, and day in enum get names, and days of week, and again we are going to use console write line day. Let's run the code. Let me just put maybe a break here, something, so we can see them separately. Let's do environment new line, and let's put one more and just a little separation. So let's run the program, and you can see both ways actually work. We see that Sunday, Monday, whatever, it is printed by using the first method and by using the second method as well. So both of them actually work well. So let's quickly go over the code and explain it. Okay, so the first method, the first way that we're using right here, let me just, this is string. The first way we actually loop through our enum should be compatible with all the versions of C#, including the old versions of Net Framework and Net Core and all the Net versions as well. And the way it works, we use the enum get names, and then we need to use the type of operator in order to get the type object for the days of week enum. And then we pass the type object to the enum get names method, and this method actually returns an array of strings which contain the names of all the enum members, and then we use the console write line day to print each one of these names to the screen, to the console. And the way the second method works, which is actually compatible with the newer versions of C#, and you should be able to use it with the latest version. If you're using net 8, you should be able to use the generic version of the enum get names method, which was introduced, I'm not quite sure, maybe net core 2 or net 5 or net 6. If you actually know, you can put it in the comments, but that is not really important. So let's see how this method works. The one that we see right here, uses the generic version of the getNames method, but let's actually start from top to bottom. The first for each loop uses the non-generic version of the getNames method, and if you examine the code, you can see that the non-generic version of the getNames actually takes a type parameter and returns an array of strings, and the second loop, the one here, actually uses the generic version of the getNames method, and you can see that it doesn't take any parameters but uses a type parameter instead. And this method is actually called by specifying the enum type as a generic type argument. So these are the two versions that we are using. So these are the ways to loop through an enum and print the names. But what about the values? The values of an enum are actually integers, and as with some of the collections that you find in C#, such as the lists or arrays, they start from 0, and that means that Sunday is going to have a value of 0, Monday is going to have a value of 1, and so on. So how can we loop through our enum and print the values? Let's do that next. In order to print the values, we are going to use the getValues method. So let's do that quickly. I'm going to go days of week, day, and we're going to go getValues, and then we can actually print the names and the values. So let's do that inside our console, write line, and day, and the value is going to be an integer, as I mentioned. And let me just comment this out for now. So let's run our code and see what it does. And you can see that it printed the names and the values of the enum items. Sunday is 0, Monday is 1, Tuesday is 2, and so on. And of course, we can actually change these values. So let me show you that quickly. Okay, so let's make this, let's leave it 1, and we're going to go 200 and 256 and 1034 and whatever. You can specify the values, and now if I run the code, you can see that we're going to get Sunday 0, Monday 200, Tuesday, and so on. And then after the last value that we specified, Wednesday, again the values are going to be incremented by 1 and printed to the screen. So Thursday is going to have a value of 1035, Friday 1036, and so on. Now let me show you the second way that you can print the values, again using the generic version of the getValues method. So let's do that next. Similar to the way we printed the names, we can use a generic version of the getValues method. So let's do that quickly and see if it actually works. So we're going to go get values, and it should be days of week, and we can just copy this line here, and let's run the code and see the output. And again, we see that the two different getValues methods work as they should, and we get Sunday 0 and Monday 200 and Tuesday 256 and so on. And again, we're using the non-generic and the generic versions of the getValues methods to loop through our enum and print the values and the names to the screen. And now let's just quickly create another enum which uses the description attribute, just to show you again how to print the name and the value of each of the enum items. Maybe it is something more practical or more familiar, so let's do that quickly. I'm going to call this HTTP status code. You should be familiar with some of these, at least some of them. So let's go description. And the first one is going to be, I'm not going to do all of them obviously, so let's go success. And we're going to do OK equals 200, and the second one, let's just copy two more, and the second one is going to be, let's go bed request, Bad request is obviously our 400 code, and we need to make this bad request. And let's make the last one our forbidden status code. So let's go forbidden, which is 403, I believe. And again, using the same getValues method, we can print the names and the values. So let's do that quickly. We obviously need to change this from days of week to HTTP status code, and let's make this okay, status code. And again, we're going to change it here, status code. And do I need to change anything else? Probably not. So let's run the code, and we see the names and the values printed to screen. OK is 200, bad request is 400, and our forbidden HTTP status code is 403. And it was the last code example for today. If you find my videos helpful, please hit the like button, subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.